Hello, how you doing? Mountain West Hoops Insider, excited to be back. My partner in crime, Eli, could not join us for this particular interview, but we have a real treat. We have the head coach for one of the hottest teams in the country still. They have won, I believe, 15 out of their last 16 and are at the top of the Mountain West, still sitting in first place, and that is Boise State. We have head coach Leon Rice, so we will invite him in and bring him in and talk to him about his program. Coach, how you doing?
I'm doing great, Brian. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. And exciting time of the year as we enter into the kind of the stretch run of the Mountain West.
It is. It's the stretch run. You guys just won 14 in a row. You've won 15 of your last 16, if I'm not mistaken. Is that right?
That is correct. And the only, we had a lot of nail biters throughout that, but we dropped the one at Wyoming. We beat them 9 days before in Boise, so we had pretty good scrap with them 2 times. And there's a lot of good teams in this league, as you've covered them. And we've been fortunate to be on the good side of those games in a lot of close ones.
Yeah, a lot of good stuff to get to. But first, I want to ask, you won 13 last year. Around the same time, you won 14 this year in a row. What is it about this program that you're able to build that kind of consistency? Obviously, you didn't draw it up that way. You want to win them all, but to be able to win that kind of streak is pretty impressive and kind of has gone understated. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Well, I think maybe it's the way we approach it a little bit. Sometimes I like to let things happen a little bit organically, and and what I mean by that is, Tyson worked his way and earned his way into the starting lineup. I kind of, you didn't know what you were going to get, but you let just things happen and you pay attention to what's happening and what's working well for you and what's not working. And then you make the adjustments as you go. And I think we've been fortunate to make some good adjustments down one of them is putting Tyson in the lineup and getting him lots of minutes. And,
right.
And that kind of made things click, and it kind of got those other guys even, it allowed them to play to their strengths better. And we also found out what guys are good at and what they're not good at. And being able to play to those strengths is the key to being a good team. And that's, I think that's what we've done a better job of.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Coach, talk about Tyson. You mentioned him. There's a lot of good players we can talk about. Tyson in particular being one of the best freshmen, if not the best freshman in the Mountain West. And to play the kind of minutes and role he does as a freshman, extremely impressive. You don't see that very often for a first-place team. You see that often in maybe a lower-tier team because they just don't have as much talent. But you guys have as much talent as anybody. But he's playing a significant role. And honestly, if he doesn't maybe fall out of that Wyoming game, it may be a different outcome. So talk a little bit about him specifically, if you don't mind.
Yeah, I think that's a great point you just made, and that's one that I was actually going to say. You see that on teams that are rebuilding. Sometimes they have to play a lot of freshmen, and but you're right. This day and age, especially with the transfer portal and the way you think maybe the Kentuckys and the Gonzagas right now, or they're going to play some freshmen, and those guys are the one and done types. But right below that level, those teams don't usually play, and I'm talking about the teams that are top 25 or close to it or right around those numbers that have kind of a more veteran look to them and older guys. And so it's pretty hard for freshmen to get a lot of meaningful minutes on a team like that. And so you're right. It's unique to see. I mean, that's why he's been Mountain West Freshman of the Week for 6 weeks. I mean, that's pretty remarkable because we're winning games and he's getting substantial minutes. I had big plans for him when we recruited him, and when you get a freshman, you don't know how quickly they're going to mature and how quickly they're going to be ready. And
right.
And the opportunity that they get. Sometimes there's some great players that you have, but they're just not getting the right opportunity because there's some really good juniors and seniors in front of them.
Right.
And, we've got that going on at the guard spot. We've got some good guys redshirting that I'm like sitting there going, these guys are going to be great players. Right. They just didn't get the chance Tyson got, but they're going to grow with this year of redshirting and the experience of that. And so, they'll come in a little more mature next year. And that's a great feeling to know that they're sitting there too. After, they're pretty excited getting to see what Tyson's doing and knowing that, hey, we're just, we're maybe a half step behind his development. So it's great when you have a freshman that fits in that good. And then that's the other thing, I got a lot of veterans on this team. And so a big part of us being able to have success is that young buck that comes in and plays a lot and scores a lot and does all the things he's doing. He has to have the respect of the older guys. Otherwise it's going to disrupt your chemistry.
Yep.
And, I think I've seen that at other programs where some young guys get hyped. There's a lot of outside hype about their recruiting and, oh, they were all Americans, they were this and that. And then they come in and the older guys and the younger guys don't mesh. Well, Tyson's the opposite. These guys respect him. They want him out there. They know he makes us better. They know he makes them better as individuals, but also so much better as a team that I got a bunch of guys that want to win. And so they want our guys that are going to help us win out there. And that's really helped our success.
Yeah, you kind of spoke to your veterans a little bit. Two veterans in particular, your guards, have really played, I think, outstanding. Eli and I named them the co-players of the week last week, and that's Kejab and Shaver. Talk a little bit about them. Shaver's obviously been super clutch, but I think Kejab, believe it or not, I think he's kind of gone under the radar as far as how well he's played. Played really well in that Wyoming game to close it. Played really well again against Wyoming. Played really well just this weekend. I mean, he's been really, really good for you as well. Those two guards have made it really hard for other teams because one of them plays one style and one of them can kind of be physical and attack you. So talk about those two and how you've been able to balance that tandem.
Yeah, no, that's been amazing. And, that's the first on Kejab is, he's a candidate for Defensive Player of the Year. I mean, the job he does on the defensive end is remarkable. And, I mean, he can guard 5 different, positions. He can, I nicknamed him the fireman because he just comes over and we screw something up, he'll come over and fix it, and flies around, plays with great energy. And, that second and third and fourth efforts that he gives is so inspiring to our team. And it's a big part of why our defense is ranked so high because, he's a cornerstone of that defense.
Coach, you're pretty good at giving nicknames, I see.
I know. Not bad. That's a good one for it. Yeah, no doubt.
That is a good
one. But he's just, then you just, I'd probably take for granted some of the stuff he's doing offensively because, he plays so hard and flies around so much that the defense is probably the best thing he does. But then now he's become so efficient offensively. The other night, I just noticed where I'm like, I didn't even notice. And he had 18, 5 assists, 8 rebounds. You're like, wow.
Yeah,
that's pretty special on the stat wise, but it's all those.
He took a huge charge. I thought he scored the last 7 points against Wyoming at home,
right?
And took a huge charge at the end of the game that really sealed the game. And I thought against Wyoming at Wyoming, he was on the offensive glass. He got to the free throw line. I mean, he really scores a little bit of everywhere, and he has this cool, calm demeanor where it's like, I know I'm a killer. I'm just doing my job.
Yeah, and that's the best thing about him. He is a killer. He's the guy. But I told the team if I have to go and do a wicked alley, I think he's the first guy I'm choosing to go with me.
And the cool part about it too. So I actually bumped into him in the hallway after the game, and what a phenomenal, impressive kid. I mean, he didn't know me from Adam, and we're having a conversation, and he's just like, I mean, as impressive of a first impression as you can have, he had that.
Well, you know how you watch highlights of senior nights around the country, and sometimes you see coaches, get pretty emotional about a senior and losing a guy. And man, I'm counting the days that I get with Abu. Yep. He's been just a joy to coach, a joy to be around. We have a day off today, and the thing, you get so excited to get back into the gym to see these guys. Yeah. And that's when, that's what you love to do as a coach. And that's why you got in the business for guys like him that because this program changed his college experience as far as, I'm not saying anything negative about where he was before, but this is kind of the experience that he dreamed about when he wanted to go to college. He wanted, wanted to be able to do everything, and he wanted a role of, hey, I'm a cornerstone of a team. I want to score. I want to rebound. But I want to most importantly help a team win and be a big part of everything. And he's had a great couple years. He redshirted for a year, got better at some things, and just kept improving. And he's a cornerstone of this team, and we've got a lot of big cornerstones, but he's the personality of it, and just been, like I said, just been a joy for me to coach and see every day. And you feel pretty fortunate when you have a kid like him. And the great thing about it is, I just went on and on about Abu. I think I've been able to do that about each and every one of these guys that I have, and that's why we're winning. You talk about culture wins games and all this and that. You always, it's a buzzword, and a lot of people talk about it. Well,
players,
what's that?
Players too.
No doubt. But the chemistry that we have and the character that we have. I mean, we've talked about Abu, we've talked about Tyson, we've talked, we're going to talk about E-Man, we're going to talk about Shaver, we're going to talk about Milad, and then, all the way up and down our roster, we have tons of character.
Yep.
And like I said, I could go into each one of these guys and tell you these great stories about their unselfishness, how awesome they are to coach, and on and on and on. And that's what's making it so enjoyable. That's why we're winning games. That's why we're all, there's a gratitude we all have about this, because we know it's, you don't always get years like this where every guy is holding the rope and pulling the rope and understanding their role. I mean, the scout team does an amazing job because they're happy in their role. They're stars in their role, and they're doing such a good job. And, so when all the stars align like this with the personnel, that's a coach's dream. And I'm pretty fortunate to get to be around these guys all the time.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Coach, you mentioned a little bit on the defense. I mean, this is the highest rated per KenPom. Going back and looking through, I mean, this is the highest rated defense that you've had in your 10 years at Boise State. And man, are they good. So
yeah, well, no doubt. It's one of the highest, I mean, you look at it, anytime you're in the top 10 in
the country.
Yeah, in a category, then it's one of the highest in the history of the league. I mean, some of the San Diego State teams, I'm sure, this year's San Diego State team is exceptional. They're number one, I think. And then we're right there with them, right around there. And, so it has been remarkable. And it's what we've hung our hat on. And, it's why we've been able to win 15 out of 16 games or whatever it's been. And, but, I think we can get 20-30% better offensively, because we've got really good skill, and but part of it might be that we put so much energy and effort into our rebounding and our defense, and sometimes it just wears you out a little bit. So it does affect your offense, but that's what gets me excited. This team's going to continue. We have room for growth down the stretch, where some teams in this position might not. They might be maxing out everything. I think we've got some room to keep growing. And you had asked me about Shaver too. Shaver's been amazing. And he's growing as a player. He's growing as a teammate. He's grown as all these things he's done in the year that he's been here. He's connected to this team. They love him. He loves them. Another guy that's just a joy to coach. He's a little more introverted than Abu, but I think you could say that about any human being. Most of them are more introverted than Abu. But he's opened himself up to his teammates a little more than he has maybe in the past. And, he's just having a phenomenal year. And these I saw that. I told our local media a ton. They asked me about these game-winning shots, and I said I saw this over and over and over again when he was redshirting.
Right.
And I was like, oh my gosh, we got to note to self: get the ball to him at the end of a shot clock and get him. He makes them. It's amazing how many times he makes them, and so he's just been so impressive. And again, another guy that I think, as we keep developing him, I think he's just going to get better and better. He's still got upside, lots of it.
Coach, you talk about development. I know me and you talked about this before. Share with people what goes into what you can share, not all the secret sauce, of course, but you guys have developed many high school players that have eventually become NBA players.
Right.
Hutchison, Justinian Jessup. Gosh, I always forget my guy's name from Texas.
Derek Alston. Yep.
Derek Alston, whose dad played in the NBA. So you have so many of these guys that, naturally that's what everyone wants to play. And you've also had really good transfers that have come in. But the development of guys has really been impressive over a span of your time there as a head coach. Can you speak a little bit about that and share a little insight as to how you've been able to make that happen? And obviously it's a focal point of your program. You can tell.
Well, I think, when you recruit a kid, there's so much nowadays of instant gratification, and guys want this right now. And we recruit them with the end game, the long term in mind, and how great they can become and what we have to do to make them get to the long term. And so it starts with the buy-in from them, their parents, their coaches. Do you want long-term success, or are you just looking for hey, I want a turnkey operation where I can come in and score 30 a game and then I'm out? And there might be a right time for that, to take those kind of guys. But I mean, most of those ones that you named, all of them, and all these situations, it's about the long-term growth, and it's about the marathon of their whole life. Not just the basketball stuff, but everything that we're doing is to try to develop, this unbreakable athlete, unbreakable person that they can deal with adversity, they can deal with obstacles, they can deal with anything thrown their way when they leave here. And, that's what they have to be able to do to go out there, if they want to play professional basketball, if they want to, be a great father, a great parent, a great husband, all those things. You're going to have to deal with adversity. You're going to have to deal with obstacles. You're going to have to understand how to approach them and how to kind of prepare yourself before that happens. All those kind of mindset things. But there's also a daily commitment to development, and we hold each other accountable. We hold our staffs accountable to that. And there's a high standard. I mean, like I said, I got some good guys on this bench that are getting better and better. Well, we're not going to lower the standard so they can play. We're going to raise them to the standard. And I think, as you do it, it's just like anything else. As you develop guys and you get experience doing it, because everyone wants to, a lot of programs run around and say their development, but they don't have a history like we do of, hey, we've developed this guy and that guy and that guy and that guy, so they can run around and say it, but until you've done it, and once you do a lot of development and a lot of commitment to that, you get better and better and better at it. I mean, I'm a lot better development coach than I was 20 years ago, when I was at Gonzaga, but that was a big part of what we did back then. And we got better and better and better at it. And I think, that's what's happened here at Boise too, but it has to be a daily commitment. Like, what are we doing to make ourselves better today? What are we doing to make our team better? What are we doing to make these players better? As individuals and as a group, and that's everything we do. We plan around that, and we plan for the long term. It's easy, sometimes when I look back at my career and some of the mistakes I've made, is when I thought about the short term and not the long term. And that's hard to do because there's so much pressure nowadays you just got to win every game. You got to win the next one, or you're falling apart, or you got, all these things. But you also got to take the long-term approach, and a roadmap for these guys' success is important. And it's important to me, and it's important to our staff. And, all our decisions are based on that.
Yeah, absolutely. And you guys have done phenomenal at that, as good as anybody. I don't think it's talked about enough. I wanted to pick your brain on a little bit of the elephant in the room with the conference.
Yeah.
Right? The elephant in the room is the conference is really good. Elite
It
level
is.
good. I mean, there was a day I was fortunate to coach in this conference twice, or be a part of this conference twice. Utah with Jim Boylan back in the day when Tim Miles was at Colorado State, and then the second time with Fresno with Coach Terry. So the first time, I think there was 4 or 5 teams that would make it in the tournament, and it feels like there should be at least 4 if not 6 in consideration. There's 6 teams in the top 55 of the net. I believe 56. I checked this morning of the net. In Fresno State, Utah State, San Diego State, Colorado State, you guys in Wyoming. So you have all of these teams. And I said this on the broadcast, and we've talked about this, but it feels like the mid-major level, the committee finds reasons not to take a team.
Yep.
And the high major level, or the Power 5 level, if you will, they find a reason to take those teams. Can you speak a little bit about that? I do believe that right now 4 teams are scheduled to be in, and Utah State is close. Talk about that part of being in this great league that just doesn't quite get the just due consistently, but especially in this year that it probably deserves.
No doubt about it. And having lived this for 12 years here at Boise, I think I have a good perspective of it. And I don't remember. I mean, we've had number 1 seeds in this league. So we've had that high level top 10 teams. Well, we might not. I mean, I'll tell you what, go and play at these places and you'll feel like you played a top 10 team. I know that.
Yeah. But venue wise, you said it's a top venue.
Yeah, it's a bear. But I think maybe 10 through 50 teams like that. We have more teams than we've ever had in that range, and I say 10 because one of us is going to keep moving up probably, but we may all beat each other enough that we all don't. We prevent each other from moving up. Like us in Wyoming split, and if one of us would have swept one of those, well, we probably have one in the top 20. Just because one of us lost by 3 doesn't mean, you know what I'm saying? So one more basket and that team's now a top 15 team instead of a top 25 team. I mean, that's what's preposterous about those rankings, because sometimes, the conference eats each other. So all of a sudden you don't get the respect or the, top 15 team, because everybody's good and it's so hard to win every game in it. And I think there's a little bit of that going on. But it is. I think it's the best multiple or the most teams that we've ever had that are this good. Yep. And I think it's people are asking me questions of like, why do you think it's like that? I say, because you've got so many veterans, that have been in this league for a while that are great players. Because if you survive and you make it to your junior, senior year in these programs, and I'm talking, us, San Diego State, Colorado State, now Wyoming's, got it going. You make it into the upper level of those programs, you're a really good player.
Right.
And a really good college player. And what we see is every one of those teams, you mentioned about 3 or 4 of my guys already. I mean, they're really good college players, and they're 22 years old and they're 23 years old. And you see that all around the conference. I mean, there's some dudes in this conference.
And guys that have signed at one point to a Power 5, some of the Power 5s.
Yeah. I mean, Emmanuel Aycott was ranked as high as 24th in the country in one, ranking. I mean, you got some dudes, and then then there's the development guys. These guys that were under the radar for one reason or another, like EK. He had a torn ACL and some injury stuff, but he was a great player. I mean, and then with COVID, you got the Tyson Degenhart stories that maybe people missed, seeing him a little bit because he wasn't out there as much, and we weren't out there to watch. And so there's a lot of circumstances that have built up these teams that man, from, like I said, from top to bottom, it's the best this league's ever been. I think in the 12 years that I've been here. So that being said, I certainly think we're deserving of 4 or 5 teams, and definitely 4 or 5 to being considered. And hopefully, the way the chips fall the last, 3 or 4 weeks, hopefully that's the case, that we do get the respect. And, because I think last year we missed out. We had some unfortunate events down the stretch of the season, and some injuries to us and some, tough scheduling by the conference that really cost Colorado State, things like that.
There were 4 teams last year that potentially could have gone, and 2 ended up going to NIT.
Yeah.
I'm always screaming it every day almost. I feel like 4 teams in this league at minimum should be going to the NCAA tournament. I was fortunate after you guys play Wyoming to go to the San Diego State, Colorado State game and watch it live.
Yeah.
I mean, you talk about 2 more teams that should be in the tournament. There's no way. San Diego State, as you said, is one of the best defensive teams, top 2 in the country, defensive adjusted efficiency. And then Colorado State has been in the top 25 for a majority of the year. Those teams belong in it. So
no doubt. And if you took, I mean, just they used to talk about, remember, it doesn't seem like they talk about this as much anymore, but there's a look test. Remember the NCAA used to always say, the look test. Well, you sat and watched San Diego State, Colorado State game. I can guarantee you that passed the look test. Number 1, the atmosphere. Number 2, the coaching. Number 3, the talent level in that gym. Like, go ahead, take a Power 5 school and throw them in that atmosphere and let them try to beat one of those teams. Good luck. Those are good basketball teams and check every box. There's not, they got size, they got physicality, they got athleticism, they got good coaching, they got great atmosphere. I watch these other games from different parts of the country and, some from a place in the Power 5 on the West Coast, and they don't have even close to the atmospheres that we're playing in right now and up and down the Mountain West. And that's really cool because it's I think it's getting a lot of national attention and some respect, but the respect that it deserves, it's probably still not getting. It is,
right.
I talk to my coaching buddies. I'm like, hey, and some of them know that, Ray Giacoletti was the coach of Utah when they were in the Mountain West, and he knows. He's like singing that telling people how hard it is to play at these places, and we certainly are seeing that this year.
Yeah, it's been a special year. You mentioned Ray Giacoletti. I wanted to mention Gonzaga. We've talked about a little bit. You have Long Beach having so much success in their conference. Wyoming is more of a disciple of yourself and Coach Linder having so much success. You have Arizona and Coach Lloyd. You have Gonzaga still doing what they do. And then you have you guys winning 14 in a row. So what is it like to see something that you were a part of for so long and all these guys having success and then you guys are having success? That's got to be a cool thing. And it's not by accident. There's some special sauce within that program that you guys have all taken with you. So share a little bit about that if you don't mind.
Oh, yeah, that's really special. And we all watch each other's games. We talk a lot, text each other a lot. And, Tommy, what he's doing in Arizona, and Dan's having a great year. They're in first place at Long Beach, and Fuey's team. I told him I watched this game the other night at BYU where they beat them by about 50, I think. And I was like, I got to be honest, I don't really dial in and watch all your games because you're always up by 100, and I said, I really watched that game. I was so impressed with how good they are and how it was just so impressive. But it is really, really special to have all these guys and everybody's doing so good. And
I think you guys are all in first place, Coach, to be honest. I think you guys checking before this interview. You guys are all in first place. Gonzaga, Long Beach, Arizona, yourselves, and then your tree of Coach Linder. You guys are more or less tied, even though they're one win behind you. So you guys are all in first place.
That's pretty neat and pretty unique. And people should, it's sometimes that gets lost on people that there is a sauce and there's a sauce at work. Now, with the way we're guarding, I think Fuey wanted to kick me out of that club because he's Mr. Offensive Coach, and I'm like, hey, I'm comfortable representing the defensive side of this team. And Dan's team has really came over to this side this year, and but that's what, like I said, my first thing one of the first things I said in this call was like, hey, I know we can get 20-30% better offensively, so that we're going to keep pushing and keep getting better because, that's been a big part of this program is how good we've been offensively. But I had to adjust to figure out.
Well, I'm glad you mentioned that. I want to jump into that, Coach, because we talked about this before the call or before the broadcast, but you guys are kind of known as an offensive program.
Right.
be top 10 in the country and top 5 and 6 at some points. Like that part is a transformation probably by you and your staff. Share a little bit about that before we get into a funny story.
Yeah, and it really is about it took me a while to get comfortable because it's the strength of this team. I knew it could be. I talked about that at the start of the year. But when you look back, Brian, you, you, so our defense goes along with that a little bit. So we get a little under.
We got just a little bit of technical difficulties with Coach Rice. We're going to try to bring him right back in to close this out. It's been such a good interview. Don't want to miss out on any of that. Coach, we lost you for a second. I think you're back. Are you back? Not quite yet. Okay, so we're going to work on this. Coach is backstage. We're going to work on getting him back going. I think he's back. Coach, you back?
There we go. Is that better?
Yeah, we lost you for a second. Sorry about that. You were talking
No
about
worries.
the transformation from an offensive kind of reputation to being a defensive team.
No question. Isn't that sad? As soon as I start talking about defense, I get bleeped out and nobody cares. Yeah, but these guys, it's a big part of it was the personnel that we had. I knew we could become elite defenders, and
Yep.
we've recruited to that, and we coached to that this year, made some adjustments, but to be a great team and to be elite in the country, in the where we want to go to be top 10. You got to be elite in both, and so that's why I feel like we can keep improving, and we want to keep improving the rest of this season. If we do, then holy cow, then we got something special.
Okay, like my last one, Coach, and I have one example if you can't think of one.
Okay,
funny story that you can share with us from any of your time as a coach that you have, and now you get to coach your son, so you may have a funny story with that.
Oh, I got lots of good ones with that, but I think I told the media a pretty funny one. They asked me about Max and how much we hang out, and I said, well, my poor wife, she's into sports. She played college volleyball and this and that, but that's all we ever have on our TV at the house, and whether it's basketball, it might be football, but that seems to be all we ever watch. And Max will hang out and watch a lot with a lot of games with me, and he still does. And but that's all we do too. Okay, let's go play 2-on-2 in the driveway. Since these guys were little, we've always done that.
Right.
And then I started. It used to be me and Cade, the youngest. We were the teammates because we could handle those two. Well, things changed, and so then I had to take Max because he's kind of, he's the biggest one, and so then it was me and Max against the other two. And I told the media, hey, we still play. We played at Christmas. We got, we still play. And I told my buddy that, and I was so proud of it. And I'm, hey, I'm still fighting with these guys, still battling. I'm still playing. He goes, well, that's so great. I can't wait to sign your cast. and it's probably true. I don't know. I gotta get them to go play pickleball now because I can still kick their butts in that. So I might have to start shying away from basketball because these guys.
Are you doing the key jab and kind of dribbling down, backing them down and getting in the post, or are you?
No, I'm a knockdown.
Coach?
I'm an automatic from 15 feet. It used to be a little farther out, but now I've lost some range. I don't know. The bad shoulders make it a little harder to do that. But just absolutely automatic. So I make Max draw the double team and kick it to me from 15, and I'll make it every time. Brock and Cade have to go double team Max.
That's
So
awesome.
I put Shaq in the post and they got to come double team him. And then we kick it out. So,
I love it. I
but
love
that's just a good family story and a fun one because we still love to compete and we still love to, that's what these guys were raised on. And, Cade is the youngest and he's going to be, hopefully he'll come to Boise State. That's what we're trying to get done. And he's out at Link Year right now at
Nice.
the
Yeah.
Academy. They're one of the best teams in the country and could win it all this year. And
Yep. Yep.
so it's been a neat experience for him. And so hopefully we'll get him back.
So is that now? Let's talk about that real quick, Coach. Before you go, what is
Sure.
it like recruiting your own son, and is the pitch different? And I'm sure there's no extra benefits for your son. How does that whole thing work?
Yeah, well, that's been great. And Max has a great feel and he's great. His teammates like him. His teammates, I remember one time, I can't remember which teammate it was, but he called me dad one time and his teammate looked at him and was like, "Oh my God, I just forget he's your dad." Because
That
he
says
just
a
fits
lot.
in so good. And, it's funny because the story was, I would call him Max at practice and it just didn't feel right. Like it was like he was my son. And so
Right.
for some reason, I just started calling him 12 and everybody calls him 12 and we still
That's awesome.
do. So
I
he
love it.
doesn't, he doesn't call me dad anymore and I don't call him Max. It's 12 and coach kind of thing. And so it's been really, really, it has its challenges. And, the neat thing was that when I went through this and was thinking about having him come play here and we're going to recruit him, I talked to everybody. I talked to everybody that's ever coached their kid that has a son that played that, and they would start by telling me all the challenges and they'd finish by saying, but it's priceless. You got to do it. I mean, including Steve Alford. I talked to Alford about it
Wow.
and what it was like. And then I had Max talk to Alford's son and,
That's
when
awesome.
Max was still in high school. And so we really researched it and
That's smart.
we
I
went,
love that.
yeah. And the bottom line was everyone says do it. And it's been a great experience. It's had its challenges. And there's times when I probably didn't treat him fairly in the fact that, I gave other kids more of a benefit of a doubt than I gave him because he was my son.
Right.
And I thought, well, he'll understand. He'll understand why I take him out of the game and he doesn't get to play enough minutes because I got to get this other guy minutes. Well, that wasn't fair. And, so I've had to adjust. And the bottom line is in the games he's played a lot in, we win. In the last couple of years, that's been the case. And then when I shrunk his minutes, that's when we started losing. And
Yeah.
so he just does, he's got a lot of qualities like Tyson has in the fact that he makes others better around him. And so, I had to be able to step away and say, okay, wait a minute. Am I doing, I got to treat him like all the players when it comes to all that stuff. And
Right.
if I would do it for the other players, I need to do it for him. And I've gotten better at that, I think.
Yeah, we actually acknowledged him as the sixth man of the week in the conference last week. We didn't
Oh yeah.
get it out, but he's definitely played well, and I think, man, he's probably better than what people even think he's supposed to be. Like his
Right.
range, and ability to shoot it. Talk about your recruiting pitch to your youngest that's at Link here. Do you have to do Zooms with him and say, "Hey, are you coming? Are you?"
Yeah, it's because we, and I think if we didn't have a chance to bring him back, that we probably wouldn't have let him leave this year. But I think it's good for kids to get away some and then, grow up some, which he's done. And then it's our dream to be able to bring him back here. So we're coming down the wire. So we'll have
I
to
think
keep.
I know who the closer is in the house, Coach. I'm gonna imagine
Yes,
it's your
yes.
wife. So
So that goes under the category of I just got to let things happen organically and put it in the right people's hands, and hopefully it'll go the right way.
no doubt. Well, Coach, we appreciate you taking so much time. This was awesome, and love to be able to shine some light on your program and what you've done there for your time. And I had the pleasure / displeasure of coaching against you because you guys won in those games. But I think a funny story I can share is I think at that time you did some type of thing on social media where maybe you jumped in like this really cold water in order to get people to sell out the
No
crowd.
doubt,
I
no
think I
doubt.
remember that. Is that right?
Yes, I've walked across the river. I've done all kinds. I rode a horse through campus. I'll do anything to get people to come to these games. And what a great crowd we had the other night. Hopefully we get that for UNLV because it makes a huge difference. When you get those people supporting you, and Boise's awesome for that.
No doubt. Well, congratulations on the success so far. We know you're not done, Coach. Best of luck the rest of the way, and thanks for taking the time and joining us.
I appreciate it, Brian. Thanks so much, and appreciating all the work you're doing for the Mountain West. It's really good for the league.
Thank you, Coach.